hey babe, what do you think about this product packaging? What do you think about my logo? And I can tell you this because talking to my past clients all the time, they're just berating their spouse and their partner, anyone they know, any random stranger they can find up at Starbucks about testing your creative assets. I promise you, this is not the way to go and run a legit business. You won't skimp on things. Other parts of your business don't skimp out on market research.
Hello guys, welcome back to this channel, We Are Growth Hack, and today I'm here with Anthony Cofrancesco, my good friend. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey Davide, thanks so much for having me today.
You're welcome, and thanks for being here. So yeah, Anthony, it's always nice to connect with you. Can you tell us where are you right now?
Yeah, so right now I am in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
How did you end up there?
Yeah, so I'm normally based out of Manila in the Philippines. I've been there for a few years, but I was traveling for an Amazon FBA conference, one of Augustus's events in Prague, and the whole world started shutting down, as everyone knows. And so I had another conference to go to in Las Vegas, Prosper Show, which at the time was still happening. And so I flew to the United States, and then that's when I got stuck. So Prosper was canceled, and I couldn't make it back to the Philippines. It was completely locked down. So I stayed in the United States for the better part of 2020. And then I had gone more than 10 months without seeing my girlfriend, who is stuck in Manila in the Philippines. And so I was very nervous about getting locked down again in the United States. So we both came to Brazil, which was only one of the only places in the world we could both fly to. So we don't speak any Portuguese. We had never been to Brazil. And so we flew down here, and that's where we are right now.
That's cool. How's life in Brazil? I mean, it's on my bucket list, but I've never been there.
Well, here in Sao Paulo, we haven't explored very much. We've just been working a bunch, but next week, things are really normal here. A lot of things are open, as you've probably heard. Next week, we're flying down to Florianopolis, which is a little bit more on the beach side of things. And I think it's a little bit farther outside of the city, and I think we're going to really enjoy it. So
yeah, you just can't wait, to distress for a little bit, unplug, and enjoy some beach. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm based here in Phuket. Some days I can't even go out because I'm just working, and day and night, it doesn't really matter. It depends how busy you are. So Anthony's a very interesting guy, and you're super young. How old are you?
I'm 26 years old.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm saying super young because in our industry, I'm personally 34, but all of the guys, I mean, I consider myself young compared to the average age of people here. So Anthony's even a lot younger. That's 8 years of difference now. So that's super cool. So tell us what you do, and where are you supposed to do back in Manila? Who you're working with right now, and tell us what's interesting in your project before we actually jump into something a little bit spicy that happened this year that you could overlook and see from far behind.
Yeah, sure. So I guess a little bit of my story is I actually started my real career working for Amazon. I worked in operations management out of fulfillment centers in Houston, Texas, and also Tampa, Florida. I worked there for about a year, got to see the inside of how these FCs work, and really got to learn a lot about Amazon. After working there for about a year, I had the opportunity to a guy that I knew from college that taught me how to sell on Amazon, how to sell FBA. He said, why don't you quit your job at Amazon, move to the Philippines, and help me scale a creative agency? And so I thought, this is crazy, but I knew I'd end up regretting it if I didn't do it. So I quit my job, moved out to the Philippines, and helped scale a creative company that did conversion optimization for sellers. We built that for a couple of years, helped literally hundreds of sellers optimize their listings, get better conversion rates. And then in the end of 2019, we had the opportunity to exit that business and sold it to a private equity company. So right now I work for a company called PickFu. It's a market research platform. I'm sure we'll get into talking about PickFu in a little bit, but it was a project that I was really, really passionate about. And I think the experience between Amazon and running my own agency and then PickFu kind of gives me a lot of really interesting perspectives and unique insights on how to optimize listings. And yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, yeah, I think most of the people here know already PickFu, or they heard it already before. Me personally, I always hear it even before interviewing you. So you have a very solid background with Amazon, and I would say it's super interesting to see when young people like you take this leap of faith and, you know, leaving the job that gives them stability and security and jumping into the, you know, unknown and a new adventure. I think you would never regret that, right?
Yeah, well, for me, it wasn't so crazy because I had traveled a bit. And I think for anyone who's ever traveled to places that are more on the side of developing countries, it really puts it in perspective how lucky you are to come from a developing country. And the way that I kind of framed it in my mind is if worst comes to worst, I'll just go back and I'll get a normal job. And so it wasn't really so much of a risk to me, but I think for people who had never traveled or never really seen what else is out there, it's very, very scary because, you know, what happens if you fail? I told my parents when I left, I was like, there's a good chance that I'm going to fail and I might have to come and live at home. And so you just
Yeah.
always have that in the back of your mind. But
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember that thinking about that too. When I left Spain for China, I was going to work for this company that I never heard of before, and going to live in this city where I've never been, in Shenzhen. And I thought, okay, in the worst case, I can just go back. But it went amazingly for 2 years. Then I moved to Hong Kong. I had very little money, and I said, okay, if it goes wrong, I can move back. And here I am after more than 4 years again. So yeah, guys, if you feel like doing something, just go for it. There could always be a plan B. Let's talk about this very interesting thing that you have seen before it actually came. Anthony has participated to our prediction for Amazon FBA for 2021 trends and prediction. We will leave the link below to this article, and it was actually forecasting something really, really interesting that actually happened, right? So tell us more about this.
yeah, well, first and foremost, I think in the article I put that, you know, this prediction comes with a little bit of wishful thinking.
Hmm.
And so I'm really excited that this came true so quickly. But basically, in the article I predicted, in last year in 2020, you saw Amazon really opening up its platform on the creative side for sellers. So allowing people that weren't brand registered to use asset types that only brand registered sellers were able to use. And then is they were starting to allow split testing inside of the Amazon platform. And so in the past, we saw this with A+ content, with titles. And as of a few days ago, for certain sellers, they opened up people to start testing inside of Seller Central main images. And so we're really excited about this. This is really, really fantastic because PickFu is part of the equation, right? It's really good split testing tool that happens in a vacuum. But this is the other side of the equation. What actually happens in the real world environment in regards to main images. And so I hope this is the first step of many of getting sellers more access to their data and running more real life tests inside of Seller Central.
So if we have to think about, the long-term plan or the long-term forecast, I mean, you really saw it very well coming for 2021 and didn't happen too long after you actually sent me your prediction. How would you say that Amazon is actually evolving their platform? If we have to think, 5 years ahead, what do you think is going to happen with all of those new integration, this new kind of advertising? There's so many new sellers, so many different agencies providing this kind of services like yours. What do you think would happen actually?
Yeah, so I mean, if there's one thing that I learned from working at Amazon, it's that, and they drill this into your head every single day, it's that their number one goal as a company is they want to be the most customer-centric company in the world. And so what they're very clearly doing is they're realizing that if they actually spend more time not focusing on the sellers, they don't care about the sellers, but what they want to do is they want to give sellers the tools that is going to allow the customer to have a better buying experience. That's going to allow them to have a deeper connection with your brand and to have a more immersive shopping experience. And so my prediction 5 years out is that Amazon is seeing the value in saying, hey, for example, if we let our sellers test their main image, they're not doing this for the sellers. They're doing it because they know you can test different versions of your main image and it's going to make the shopping experience better for your customer. I think you're going to start to see them, instead of just having one video that you can upload for your pay-per-click advertising, they're going to allow you to have different different formats of the video. You're going to start to see more detailed analytics because they realize these brands are getting big enough. They've got teams that are big enough that if you give sellers that information, they're going to do the right thing with it and focus on the customer.
Yeah, that's amazing. So talking about, split testing, how can PickFu help sellers here?
Yeah. So what the biggest thing we saw in when Amazon opened up in Seller Central, when they opened up managed experiments, this was more than 2 years ago, because when I was running my old agency, we had this as a service. Very, very few sellers actually went out and created duplicate copies of their A+ content to run through managed experiments. And so the real advantage from PickFu, we're not trying to replace split testing. We think that you should really actually go and run testing inside of Seller Central. What PickFu is helpful with is coming up with the ideas for what should you actually go and test. So PickFu is really helpful in helping you decide, okay, if I want to create multiple versions of a main image, what should go into that? If I want to create multiple versions of your A+ content, what should go into that? What should the design look like? And the other real advantage of PickFu is that the split testing that you run on Seller Central, it's going to tell you which one won, right? It'll say, hey, main image, it gave you a higher conversion rate, it gave you a higher click-through rate, but it won't tell you why, right? It won't tell you the reason why. And so PickFu is particularly helpful because people aren't just voting, do they like option A or option B? They're giving you a detailed feedback as to why they chose that. And that can really help guide your creative process.
Yeah, so you're actually mentioning people voting. So for those who don't know what PickFu is, tell us a little bit something about how does it work, and how do you get to actually run those tests? How do you get people to actually vote? Where do you guys get this information from? How does it work?
Sure. So the panel, first I like to say, PickFu is really what you would call DIY, do-it-yourself market research. And so imagine you've got an idea, whether it's for an image, A+ content, product packaging. You have your idea and you can show it to our panel of more than 10,000 people. They're all real people and they're all based in the United States. Now, these people, they get paid to answer these questions, right? So they're not just doing it for free. They do get paid and they're specifically instructed, and they go through a lot of vetting and a lot of training to say, okay, the feedback that you're giving, this is going towards real businesses. This is actually helping people guide what is going to happen in the real world with their businesses. And so we are constantly trimming and curating that group of panelists to make sure that the only people that are there are people that are giving thoughtful, well thought out responses and are really putting in effort.
Yeah, that's super cool. So give us some examples of how sellers can use PickFu. So we just said, main images or content. Would you also use it for listing optimization in terms of title and bullet points?
Yeah, so PickFu really works well for optimizing visual assets. So pretty much think anything that your customer sees is something that should probably be optimized with PickFu. And so we have a really good example, a really good case study that we did with a company I'm sure almost everyone has heard of at this point, Thrasio. And so they're a huge billion-dollar company. They acquire different Amazon brands and they're a private equity fund. So as the value of those brands go up, the value of their fund goes up. And so we have a really good case study we did on one of their products called Angry Orange. It's a pet deodorizer, and they use PickFu to optimize their product packaging. And so when they acquired that brand, it was totally fine looking product packaging. It looked good, but they used PickFu and they went through a bunch of different iterations, right? They created different versions. They tested them against each other in PickFu. They analyzed the feedback and they repeated over and over and over again until they ended up with this really new, beautiful product packaging. And so what PickFu is really helpful for is not just changing the color of the bottle, but really focusing on, okay, every pixel of space on that product packaging, what's the purpose of it? And is it going to actually communicate the important information about the product in a very quick way? And so just using PickFu to optimize the product packaging, they grew that brand from $2 to more than $20 million in sales almost overnight. And so again, what we say is that PickFu, and we have a very good testimonial on our website. You'll see the VP of Creative and Brand Strategy talking about how Thrasio, they use PickFu in almost every major creative decision. So that's really it. If you're making creative changes to your brand, whether it's images, packaging, branding, whatever it might be, if you're making a creative decision, use PickFu to get some real customer feedback about if you're making a good decision.
Wow. So this can be actually, a game changer for your Amazon sales, for, performance of your product. And this is really amazing. Tell us, okay, so a brand owned by Tracio was actually able to multiply times 10 their sales on Amazon thanks to this little change in the packaging. Tell us a little bit about the price. How does it work? Do customers have to pay, a recurrent fee, or they have to pay for each poll that they make? How does it normally work?
Sure. So first off, we wanted to make it really accessible, so you don't need a subscription to use PickFu. Anyone can go sign up and start using the tool right away. The pricing starts at $1 per response. There's a minimum of 50 responses, so $50 per poll. If anyone here who's watching hasn't used PickFu before, you can use the code WEAREGROWTHHACK and you'll get 50% off of your first test. So again, for as little as 25 US, you can get started. Now, I will say, once you start using PickFu, you're going to love it, and it's going to work well. It's just the reality of the situation. And so if you're starting to run more than 3 polls in a month, then it's going to save you money to buy a subscription package. And then for the bigger companies out there, so these are sellers that are doing $1 million plus in revenue. Basically, what we're seeing is they're deciding, hey, market research is an important part of my business. I'm not just going to go with my gut. I'm not going to go to my partner or my spouse and say like, babe, what do you think about my logo? They're going to take market research seriously. And so they're dedicating usually about 1% of their overall revenue to market research. And then in that case, you can buy prepaid credits in advance. It's really good if you have, you're a larger company, you have creative people that are working on the listings and you don't want to like keep putting in your credit card information. And so you can buy prepaid credits, and that's the best way to save money when you're buying in bulk.
That's amazing. Yeah. And guys, don't forget, because you're watching this video, we'll have a discount on your on the use of PickFu. So just use the code WEAREGROWTHHACK. We will also leave a link below in the description. Yeah, so this is really great. Anthony, okay, we want to keep our content very short, and we really want people who are interested to get in touch with you or to go and try PickFu. I think, I'm pretty sure that they will love it. We will personally also try that directly, and we'll probably, create more content, and we'll instruct our users on how to use PickFu. That was great. Why? I mean, I still want to ask you this thing for our very young audience here. Give us just one tip to the young people here. They might be students or fresh graduates who are looking to change something in their life, and they're maybe a little bit afraid of, changing their environment, getting out of their comfort zone. Tell us something. Give us some motivation today.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest piece of advice, and I feel very, very lucky that I was surrounded by entrepreneurs pretty early on in my career, and go and take as much risks as you can, especially when you're young, right? Before you are married, before you have kids, before you have a family, and there's things that lock you down, just go and try, right? Because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to fail miserably. You're going to learn from the situation, and your life is very long and you can pick it back up. So what I would encourage everyone to do is go out, try to see the world, try to get experience. Don't worry about if what you're doing is a waste of time. Just go and get your hands dirty doing something. Go in with the expectation that when you first start doing anything, you're going to be terrible at it. You're not going to know anything. It's going to take years to get good. And you'll be so far ahead of everyone who wanted to go the sure route of only saying, hey, I'm only going to do something if I know exactly what's going to happen. What I've seen biggest for myself is that, and just from, everyone in the community that I look at, and this is really, really cool to see, where they're at in their life was a decision that they made 3 to 5 years in the past, and you're slowly building and building your ideal life. And so in order to figure out what you want your ideal life to be, you have to go and experience a lot of different things. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take risks. And the earlier you start, it's definitely a huge advantage. There's no question about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I definitely agree on everything that you just said. Just do it. Just jump. The worst thing is just go back, and it's better to take this risk now when you're young than when it's probably, let's say, too late, because you have too many. I would say, responsibilities, and you can't afford to fail miserably again. and you know, at a further stage of your life. But yeah, I mean, thanks, Anthony. This was amazing. We will leave your contact information, and we will leave, you know, the link with the discount for PickFu. And guys, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, to give us a like, so we can create more free content for you and interview more amazing people. And this was everything for today, and I will see you on the next time. Bye, Anthony. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have an awesome day.